In this tutorial, we'll look at the pixelization so that we can start to match our foreground and our background layers a little bit better. So here we are back in this composite. If you watched the blur one just a second ago, I put blur on the background. This time I'm going to work on the foreground element. And this is where I would typically work even with the blur. So watch the next Watch Me video to see the techniques to put these both together so that you can see that. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make these two images, the foreground and background, look like they were shot with the same camera, same location, etc. So the resolution of this background image is actually a little bit smaller than the resolution of our foreground image that was taken inside of the camera. So this is 1920 by 1080, but it's been kind of stretched. So we're getting a little bit of a pixelization kind of effect. Oops, let me undo that. Make sure I hit my spacebar all the way down here. Especially down here in these areas, we're starting to see that it looks just a little bit more pixelated, and we want to kind of achieve that same look in here. Again, these are going to be very micro movements, but again, it's going to be the things that really set it apart and make it feel like it's actually in the same composite. So for this effect, we're going to go up to Effect, we're going to come down to Stylize, and we're going to choose this mosaic effect. And when it gets put on there the first time, it's going to look kind of ridiculous. It kind of makes it look like a Minecraft video. And you're going to see that this is also a really good technique to use to kind of blur people's faces if they don't want to be on camera, kind of like that show Cops back in the day. But basically what we have is we have a horizontal and a vertical blocking of our image, and it's just stealing the color information from various points in our image and saying, oh, I'm just going to make big blocks based off of this. But we can increase, say, like the horizontal blocks. I could just increase it like this, and we can start to see that our image is actually coming up. We can do the same thing with our other ones, and we're starting to see that as well. This looks like a really fun technique just to have anyways, so there's probably a lot of applications that you can use this for. So I'm going to start at 1,000 for both. And that's a pretty significant amount of pixelization. And almost in a lot of cases, it's probably not going to even be noticeable as I turn it on and off. But if I zoom in here real close, and I want you to pay attention to things like the edge of his face and his eyes here, as I turn it on, it's starting to create this quasi blur effect. And it's not really blurring it because you can barely tell when we're out in our extreme wide view. But what it's doing is it's taking some of that edge off, and it's starting to make it look like it's part of that same image. So even at 1,000 looks pretty good. If we went down to 800, which I think is going to be too noticeable for this image, and we turn it on and off, it starts to get even a little bit more blurry, but it really sells the fact that he's inside of this shot. So that's kind of the basic of that. I go into a little bit details on how to work with it with the blur and the Watch Me video next, but that's the fundamentals of how to use that mosaic effect. All right, see you in the next one.